left was in love with you. And now the same idiots are calling you an. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life.
I mean,
there's so many examples of people saying my heart goes out to you.
Sure,
you did it with a little enthusiasm that probably wouldn't be recommended with hindsight.
Yes, but it was obviously meant in the most positive spirit possible.
Yes, obviously.
Obviously.
But it's so strange where people want to think that you are openly, publicly doing secret Sieg Heil hand motions.
Now I can never point at things diagonally. I can only point at things there and there. And then so you have to divide that.
Yeah.
Because that's where the spaceship is, over there. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. When CNN, when I was in all my trouble.
Absurd.
Every time CNN used a photo of me, it was one of the photos from the UFC weigh-ins, where I go like this, welcome to the weigh-ins. So every photo is me. Every photo is me with...
It's absurd.
It's so crazy.
Well, it's deliberate propaganda. So that they know it was obviously not meant in a negative way, that I literally said my heart goes out to you, and it was very positive. The entire speech was very positive. I was being very enthusiastic about the future in space, and it was a great crowd. So
yeah, you got a little pumped up. Yeah, that's all it is.
Obviously.
There's video of Tim Walsh doing the exact same thing.
Right.
Exact same thing. And he said, of course, it's a salute. He said that. This is how crazy things have gotten.
Well, it's coordinated propaganda. Doesn't it seem weird that the legacy media all says the same thing? They all say the same thing at the same time using the same phrases. They don't even bother picking up a thesaurus.
Right.
So, like right before, the debate between Biden and
sharp as a
Trump.
The president's very sharp.
He's as sharp as a tack.
He's as sharp as a tack.
Sharp as a tack.
Everyone was saying sharp as a tack. Like, who says sharp as a tack? But
yeah, exactly.
It's not a common phrase.
It's definitely not common to be repeated on air with multiple people simultaneously. Yes. That's weird.
Yes.
That's coordinated.
100%.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like hundreds of people saying it simultaneously. They just got their instructions. So, I mean, essentially, the Dem leadership or, political leadership, they issue their instructions and their puppets carry it out.
Yeah.
They're just like puppets in a puppet show.
And that's the problem that I see with all this Doge stuff.
Right.
Because everybody should be celebrating that we've found a way to cut out fraud and waste.
Yeah.
If you pay taxes and you don't like that you have to pay so much in taxes, and then you find out that there's significant fraud and waste that's been exposed, you should be celebrating it. This shouldn't be, oh no, the wrong people found this fact and now it's a bad thing.
Yes.
And then there's the fucking propaganda, the mindfuck of calling it U.S. aid.
Yeah,
instead of the United States Agency for International Development. It sounds like it's feeding hungry people. This is horrible. And then you find out, actually, it's like $250 million for transgender animal studies. Like, it's like
literally mutilating animals.
Yes.
Mutilating animals in demented studies.
Yes.
That are like the worst thing you could possibly imagine from a horror show. Horrific.
Yeah, where they covered their head in a basket and put fleas on their heads to eat them alive.
Yeah.
And then they studied these beagles and then killed them. Like, what are you going to learn from that? That's good for anybody.
Yeah. There's some psychotic stuff that happens. So, yeah, I mean, I guess the real threat here is to the bureaucracy. So, like, you probably saw, like, let's say like Trump is a threat to our democracy, which is ironic since he was elected with the majority of the popular vote. They started saying I was a threat to democracy. But if you just replace threat to democracy with threat to bureaucracy, it makes total sense. The reality is that our elected officials have very, very little power relative to the bureaucracy until Doge. So Doge is a threat to the bureaucracy. It's the first threat to the bureaucracy. Normally the bureaucracy eats revolutions for breakfast. This is the first time that the revolution might actually succeed, that we could restore power to the people instead of power to the bureaucracy.
Now, the size of it
was
when you guys first started investigating it, when you first get in, how much of it was shocking? Like just the size of it all?
Well, the size of it all, the small decisions result in multi-billion-dollar outcomes. So, we'd see, it was a case where we saw one person was getting $1.9 billion sent to their NGO, which basically got formed about a year ago and had no prior activity. So they just stand up an NGO. The whole NGO thing is a nightmare, and it's a misnomer, because if you have a government-funded non-governmental organization, you're simply a government-funded organization. It's an oxymoron.
Right. It's a loophole.
Yes. The government-funded NGOs are a way to do things that would be illegal if they were the government, but are somehow made legal if it's sent to a so-called nonprofit. But these nonprofits are then used to, people cash out these nonprofits. They become very wealthy through nonprofits. They pay themselves enormous sums through these nonprofits.
It's so insane that that's been going on for so long.
It's a gigantic scam. Like one of the biggest, maybe the biggest scam ever.
And how many NGOs?
I think there's a total number of NGOs, probably millions, but in terms of large NGOs, tens of thousands. I mean, it's actually a hack to the system where, someone can get an NGO stood up for a fairly small amount of money. Like George Soros was really good at this. Like George Soros is like a system hacker. Like he figured out how to hack the system. He's a genius at arbitrage. So he figured out that you could leverage a small amount of money to create a nonprofit, then lobby for the politicians to send a ton of money to that nonprofit, so you can take what might be a $10 million donation to a nonprofit and leverage that into a $1 billion NGO. And then the government continues to fund that every year. And it'll have a nice sounding name, like the Institute for Peace or something like that. But really, it's a graft machine.
And what are their requirements with that money? What do they have to do?
Just really no requirements at all.
So they just get grants and the government just assumes that they're doing good work.
I think a lot of people in the government know that they're not doing good work, but it's a giant graft machine. I mean,
but surely
people online are like unpacking this,
right?
It
almost seems fake. Like when you're seeing how we were covering this article that said 55,000 Democrat NGOs were discovered that had been contributing to campaigns and moving things around and pushing propaganda, and they were all connected. And they found it through AI. That you have to go through steps and steps and steps to figure out where the money's coming from. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's all funneling down to this group, and this group does that. And it's a giant propaganda machine, a giant regime change machine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean,
but does it do some good as well?
It does some good. So it's like it's not like 0% good. If it was really 0% good, it'd be much easier to detect. So there's going to be some percent good that they add in there, but it might be 5% or 10% good, but 95% not.
So is there a way to audit all this stuff and find out, these people are actually just sending food to poor people. These people are actually just helping people with water in third world countries? There's a way to do that and keep funding those?
Yeah, I mean, we have continued to fund things that appear to be legitimate, even with the flimsiest, if there's even the flimsiest excuse. Like, I just say, send me a picture of the thing. Like, you could literally have AI generate the picture. But if you're not even willing to try to trick me, and we're not going to send the money.
There's what was set aside that there wasn't going to be a freeze on?
Work for Ebola prevention. It may or may not be. It could be the kind of thing where you sort of fund Ebola prevention, but it turns out that actually you're funding a lab that develops new Ebola recipes or something,
Yeah.
And they claim it's Ebola prevention, but it's actually Ebola creation. So some of these things, I don't know. I mean, but it just seems like we shouldn't be sending taxpayer money to dubious enterprises overseas.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why are we doing it? What exactly is the reason? Is it because we want to make friends with these people so the Chinese don't take over, the Russians don't take over? Okay, how much of that is a good thing? How much of that is smart to do? And how much is a grift? And without any sort of oversight.
Yeah. Well, also, we just have a real issue with the budget deficit. It's gigantic. If, all things being equal, if we didn't have a gigantic budget deficit where the interest on the national debt exceeds the Defense Department budget, which is truly astounding, which means, so we're paying over $1 trillion of interest on the national debt, then, we'd have more room for wasting money, basically. But when we're spending so much money that the country's going bankrupt, then we really need to stop spending money unless we're sure it is good value.
So essentially, we're like a poorly managed business with an unlimited credit line that is off the rails.
Absolutely. Most of the time I create businesses from scratch. Like
Right.
Twitter was a case where I kind of bought a company that I knew was a hairball.
Well, you came in at Tesla in the beginning, but they were already doing something, right?
No, Tesla did not exist in any meaningful form. There were no employees. JV Stravelant joined 3 other people. There was no car. There was no nothing.
So it
the
wasn't
beginning.
even a prototype yet?
No,
Oh, okay. I thought it was a prototype already.
no. There
So-
weren't even any employees.
So if you're handling the government like a business, you're going to have to go through all of these departments and do the exact same thing that you're doing with USAID. So how does that scale up? Like, how many people do you need to do something like that?
Well, we started off with about 40 people, and maybe 100 people, and we're really just going through doing very basic things here. As bad as Twitter was, the federal government is much worse. In the case of Twitter, it wasn't a profitable company. It was like basically a break-even company, but at least it was break-even, and it had to pass an audit. The federal government is not break-even. It's literally losing $2 trillion a year. It does not pass its audits. It fails its own audits. There's a case where Senator Collins was telling me about how she gave the Navy $12 billion for more submarines, got no extra submarines, and then held a hearing to say where'd the $12 billion go, and they were like, we don't know. That was it. Basically, stuff is so crazy. It's like only the federal government could get away with this level of waste. It's mostly waste. It's mostly just ridiculous things happening.
Because they've been able to do it this way for so long. And they've become accustomed to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Milton Friedman said, like, money is most poorly spent when you're spending someone else's money on people you don't know. How much are you going to care?
Right.
And that's the federal government. So they're spending someone else's money on people they don't know.
Now, imagine any other business that was this badly run
It would be
that
dead.
complains when you want to check the books and audit it and go through all the decisions that have been made and go through all the ledgers and like,
Yeah.
what did you do? Clearly.
Yes. The reason I'm putting so much effort into this is that I think it is a very dire situation. It's not optional, basically. America's going bankrupt, so that just can't happen.
It's just bizarre to me that some people aren't willing to look at it correctly. They're not willing to see how much chaos this is, how much waste and fraud there is.
Yeah,
how
I mean,
much can be trimmed. And just
we-
because people have jobs doing bullshit doesn't mean your tax dollar should pay for this bullshit.
Yes. I mean, we found just with a basic search of the Social Security database that there were 20 million dead people marked as alive.
What percentage of them?
It isn't clear. We're actually trying to run this ground. I was trying to get an answer right before the show. What it looks like is that most of the fraud is not coming from Social Security payments directly, but because they are marked as alive in the Social Security database, that they can then get disability, unemployment, sort of fake medical payments, and other things because they're marked as alive in the Social Security database. So it looks like it's the fraud is a bank shot, essentially. They bank shot into Social Security. They just do an "Are you alive?" check, and then get fraudulent payments from every other part of the government. Yeah. And this exploits the fundamental weakness in the government is that the various government databases, they don't talk to each other. They talk to each other very poorly in a very limited way. So the way that the system gets exploited is by taking advantage of the poor communication between the various databases in the government. To give you an example of like what's happening in, say, Treasury, which is improving rapidly, the main payments computer is called PAM, like payment accounts master database or something like that, but everyone calls it PAM. That's responsible for almost $5 trillion of payments a year, roughly $1 billion an hour. And when we came there, we're looking at this PAM, and it's like the payments have no... You could put a payment through with no payment categorization code and no description on the payment, like basically untraceable blank checks. This is the kind of thing that if it was done as a public company, the company would be immediately delisted and the executive team would be thrown in prison. But this is just normal at the government. So we said, okay, our recommendation to the Treasury and the Federal Reserve is like, we need to make the payment categorization codes mandatory, not optional. There needs to be an explanation. We're not judging the quality of the explanation, but there should be some explanation for what this payment is for above nothing. That's a radical change to the system that is being implemented now. My guess is that probably saves $100 billion a year.
Jesus Christ.
That's
Where
well, I
was
might
that money go?
probably-
Where was that money going? Well, Elon's the coolest. He's my favorite billionaire. That dude's wild. He's a wild boy. I will buy Teslas as long as they sell them, just to support that dude.
Just to keep Twitter going.
And they're dope, but yeah, just to support him, man. You God damn it, you need an Elon Musk in this world. You need a wild boy. You need a dude who's
how
got
great-
$200 billion who dunks on people.
Dude, how great was watching him realize in real time how stupid Don Lemon is?
Oh my God!
Like you could actually see on his face as he's asking the questions, and he's like, "Well, if you lower standards, then you're going to get more incompetence." And Don Lemon's like, "So you're saying black people aren't competent?" And he's like, "No, that's not." And he slowly starts to realize, like, "Oh, I have 80 IQ points on this guy."
It's not just
Like-
that. He said a very important point. He said that Don Lemon was doing CNN outside of CNN.
Yep.
And you don't have to do that. You just don't. Nobody wants that anymore.
I'd say you can't do that. It's not going to work.
It's not going to work. But more importantly, you shouldn't do it because it's not good for you. Just be a human. Don't be this thing, this journalistic probing bullshit thing that's trying to spin a narrative. This one wild genius dude decides to buy Twitter.
Isn't it amazing?
Amazing. If he didn't do that, we would genuinely be in a real pickle.
Honestly, Twitter or X now is really where I get like all my news. Like I don't even resort to a lot of the mainstream media places, at least for breaking news. Like I'll find it on X. So God bless Elon Musk. I really think that he has almost single-handedly really turned this culture around. So God bless him.
He's definitely made it take a turn. And for anybody who thinks that's exaggerating, you have to take into consideration that is not a business move that any corporation that wants to make money would have approved.
No.
If you're Elon Musk, you can do it. But there's like maybe 5 of those guys on Earth that could just buy something for $44 billion. That's
crazy.
That's really probably worth half that.
Right.
So you could never justify it on paper.
No.
So he's an insane person.
He is.
Who's dedicated to free speech, who just happens to have $200 billion. So he can step in and do that. And when they tell him about advertising, that was one of my favorite speeches ever. He was like, "Go yourself."
Isn't that awesome?
It was amazing.
It was
He goes,
perfect.
if you're gonna blackmail me with money, you're gonna do that. Go yourself.
It's amazing.
And then he goes, "Hi,
that's-
Bob."
It's hilarious.
Also, he's smarter than everybody. So he sees,
And he's rich.
He sees where all this is going. He's like, "You people are out of your minds. Like, what are you
Exactly.
doing?" So he
Exactly.
literally has to step in and buy a social media platform, and then upon doing so, they release all these emails to these journalists like Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi, and you find out through all this that they've been in contact with the
This whole
FBI, and
time.
the FBI's been telling them to delete accounts and get rid of posts. And
My account was deleted prior to the Elon Musk era, but I was able to make a new account under
with
Elon Musk's Twitter.
yeah, luckily.
And it's the only platform that I found where I don't get my videos or posts removed.
He goes in, man.
It's really interesting to see how political he's gotten, and immediately upon being, because he was the darling of the left and the right. The left, obviously, for the cars, right?
Yeah.
But the right, because he's a successful businessman, right?
Yeah.
And the second he takes a position politically, he is chastised, shamed, ridiculed. And even before that, think about it. Everybody was invested in Tesla because the stock was going crazy. So not only are you the darling, you're making me money.
Right.
I want you to be great.
Yeah.
Once you're making people money, they don't want to write bad shit about you.
Yeah.
Especially they got $1 million invested in Tesla.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ridicule this guy and watch half of my money go away.
Yeah.
And the second he opened his mouth about politics,
And the thing is, he snaps back at people.
he goes.
Which is crazy.
He goes.
Bro, he dunks on people.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah, but I'm also just like, don't you got some science to do? Like, get off
how
Twitter.
are you doing this?
Yeah.
I don't understand how he does any of it.
AI, dude. He created another Elon.
Maybe he is. Maybe he's AI.
But what he's done with Twitter or X is really interesting.
I call it Twitter.
Yeah, it's hard for me to change. Well,
Because it is an X that you made, or is it a tweet? Did you tweet something?
it's a tweet.
I tweeted it.
Yeah, it's Twitter.
It's kind of funny, though, because it is X.
Yeah, but it's Twitter.
But it's Twitter.
But like the idea that he is going to uphold this soapbox for free speech despite having some awful things said, the greater outcome will be hopefully a civil society where ideas can permeate freely.
He may have very well saved
That
humanity in some way. I don't know how happy Elon is, but I know he laughs a lot. Like, I've been around that dude a lot, and he's always laughing about it. He's clearly under an extreme amount of pressure. He's clearly a high performer, but he's also seems to be enjoying a lot of it.
Did you see his interview recently with Lex? I think it was maybe 4 months ago.
No, I didn't.
So on that, there's a really interesting point where Lex is asking him basically what it's like to be Elon.
Yeah.
And Elon says, most people think they would want to be me, but they do not want to be me. My mind is a storm. They don't know. They don't understand.
He said that to me too. Yeah.
It's apocalyptic and terrifying. We spoke about this last time, Tiger Woods, the price that people pay to be the person that you admire.
Right.
And, you know, Tiger Woods goes through this really difficult period with his father and all the rest of it. And this is the best remedy for envy that I can think of. Because people look at Elon as this dude who's sending rockets to Mars and he's making the coolest cars on the planet and he's on stage in Japan or China or whatever doing weird robot dances and he's super rich. And you go, you don't know the price that he's had to pay for that. You don't know the internal texture of someone's mind. Your heroes aren't gods. They're just regular people who probably got good at one thing by sacrificing literally everything else.
Yeah, he's not a normal guy.
You can't be.
He's a very, very unusual person. And when you talk to him, you can tell, like, in the back of his brain, his mind is just firing. It's just going all. Like, I asked him, I'm like, what is it like to be you? Like, what is it like to have all these? He's like, you wouldn't want to be me.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't seem happy.
He didn't even know that it wasn't normal until he was like an older kid. And he's like, oh, everybody's not like this? Where you just got ideas just bouncing around your head like laser beams, just constantly go. I mean, the guy's running 3 different companies simultaneously, or 4 different companies simultaneously.
I think at a time he was doing like 5 or 6 too. It's something crazy.
Insane. It's like buys Twitter, posts on it all the time, dunks on people, posts memes, you know, gets people mad at him, and then is also running SpaceX and is also running Tesla and is also running the Boring Company. Like, what the man?
It's having similar characteristics of like a degenerate gambler to be that successful in business like that, because you have to be willing to go all in all the time.
Well, he's one of the very few people that's like the head of a business like that that's also, you know, he's an extraordinary human in terms of like the way his mind functions. It's not a normal person.
No way. No, you don't get to that level.
It's interesting to me that people don't seem to understand the value and importance of a guy like Elon, who's this wild billionaire character who likes to dunk on people. Like that guy being like, did you see that thing that he posted the other day? Because there's one of the guys who was like from Facebook, I believe, said that what Elon is doing is corruption on like an Enron level, I think he compared it to. So Elon posted a photo of a dog laying its balls on another dog's head. And
I did not see this.
It was like dunking on this dude. I'm like, how wild is this guy? And then someone said, did you really spend $44 billion on Twitter so you can dunk on people? And he writes 100%. He's like,
I don't know how he has time for this. I mean,
don't get it. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. But
and
he
do
does.
everything else that he's doing.
He's a fascinating guy.
Yeah.
I mean, his brain is a fucking tornado of information just flying around all the time. And I think it helps him to be able to just fuck around and be silly.
Yeah.
But he was the only one that recognized that there's a real problem if you have the entire narrative being controlled by one ideology through all the social media apps.
Yes.
And that's what's going on.
Exactly.
When I talk to Elon Musk, I'm very aware how dumb I am.
Really?
Yes. When I talk to Lex Friedman, when I talk to Eric
But if you
Weinstein,
talk to Elon about emotions and human interaction, if you talk to Elon about emotions and human interaction, probably you're much smarter than him.
He's not dumb in that regard. He's a different kind of human, man. Like, that's an unusual combination of characteristics. He likes to make jokes. He takes a picture of Bill Gates, and then he puts it next to a pregnant man emoji, and it says, here's a quick way to lose your boner. Or if you want to lose your boner really quick. That's what he said. He posts that!
Yeah.
He's the richest man in the world, and he's dunking on other billionaires.
I love that. No,
you
I
gotta
love that.
celebrate that.
I love Elon.
And he loves that nature of the internet. And the thing that bothers him is this idea that like one gatekeeper can dictate whether or not something gets released into the whole world. If you're using something like Twitter, like you could have an amazing story and they can block it if ideologically they disagree with it. Like that's what happened with that Hunter Biden laptop.
Yeah.
What happened with that?
Well, they decided to say that it was Russian disinformation and that you couldn't share the links on Twitter or Facebook.
Twitter said that.
Yeah, Twitter would not let you share the links. And the link is from a story in the New York Post, which is really kind of crazy because that's like one of the oldest newspapers in America.
Hamilton.
It's a long established newspaper and they wouldn't let you post. It's not like some wild ass website,
right.
You know, some weird, it might not be a real website. Mm-hmm. It was New York Post. And so when something like a Twitter has the ability to just tell you what you can and can't talk about, even if that thing is valid, even if that thing, well, what if it does legitimately, I don't know what the fuck is in his laptop, but what if it does legitimately point to corruption? Are we supposed to just ignore it?
I think what's going on now is like they want someone to be 100% compliant to whatever ideology they're a part of. And any deviation of that is problematic. Whether it's because they think, like I saw an article that said Elon Musk donated $150 million to some charity and they called him a cheapskate.
It's hilarious.
How hilarious is that?
Well, wait till they see when I'm a billionaire. Talk about get ready for this cheapskate.
I think back on his statements. I don't think they were particularly insensitive. I think they were just, you know, it was more of like a factual bluntness to the way he discusses things, because he's a numbers guy. He looks at things in terms of equations. He's trying to put people on Mars. You know what I mean?
By global standards, sure.
Bro, you're killing it.
By
Shut
global
your mouth.
standards, I'm on Elon Musk level.
I mean,
That's
I'm
true.
poor compared to Elon.
That is true. You are broke.
I'm so broke.
Do you think he laughs about you, like when you're not there?
Yes.
He's like,
that poor little bastard.
He goes, I got Rogan coming over to the house. Put away the good china. Because, oh God, the Rogans are coming.
There's levels of people. I'm friends now. This is a bizarre thing to say, with multiple billionaires.
Yeah.
I know multiple guys that are billionaires, and they're very nice people. They're very nice, and I can see how it happens.
It's hard when you're doing stuff that is this complicated to predict exactly how long it's going to take. So, you know, we end up often falling a little bit behind, but we do our best.
That's the case, though, with everything that's that crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, especially with Elon, he's never right in his predictions. All his wacky inventions, they're always a little off.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
he's such an unusual human. Very few people that you could make any kind of rational comparison to, other than maybe Nikola Tesla, where you really stop and think what he's done.
Yeah.
And the fact that he does them all simultaneously, that he's involved in the Boring Project, he's involved in Tesla and SpaceX all simultaneously, and Tesla Home, solar, all the solar panels and the making solar tiles for roofs, and he's doing so many different things at the same time. It's almost impossible. Like I don't understand how he does it.
Yeah, I've seen him do it, and I still don't understand it. You know, I don't know how he does it, to be honest.
Well, he's the next stage of humanity.
Yeah.
If people are evolving, he's like looking at us from the next spot. He's like, hey guys, I've got some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, he's just an idea factory, and his ability to do that across all the different technologies that go into rockets and cars and everything else he does, that's what really impresses me.
Well, also the lack of burnout, because he's been doing it at this incredible rate, 16 hours a day for how long?
His whole life, I think.
That's nuts.
I know.
And he's still hungry for it. And he's still taking on these new projects and new ideas. And, you know, I mean, I'm very happy he exists, you know?
Yeah.
But it's just very confusing to me. I just feel so stupid when I'm around him, you know? Like the conversations I've had with him, I'm like, God, I'm dumb.
No.
You gotta do what you gotta do with what you got.
I won't go that far.
So his ultimate goal is to create some sort of a colony on Mars, but he believes that this technology will continue to expand to the point where we will be leaving our solar system. We will be making human trips into other solar systems, into actual deep space.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, hopefully that's, you know, at some point, if we're going to survive, if you take the really long view, you know, the solar system's not going to last forever.
Right.
It's going to last plenty long. And if my kids are listening at home, Don't worry.
They're freaking out right now, especially
we
a 2-year-old.
we got-
Oh, no, Daddy said we're going to die.
No, we got plenty of time.
Couple billion years, kids. Relax. It's not in our lifetime.
So we're kind of going down the road of making this place uninhabitable.
Well, what we need is someone like Elon who concentrates on the solutions. I mean, he's obviously got a full plate, many full plates, but someone like him to concentrate on solutions to some of the environmental problems that we've created for ourselves here.
Well, that was the thought behind Tesla. I mean, so Tesla's kind of like Plan A, save this planet, and SpaceX is kind of Plan B, if you look at it that way.
It's so weird to have a guy like that amongst us.
Yeah,
you know?
what's going on with was a Neuralink, the company where he's making the chips that go in your head.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. That's the other thing he does.
That one.
He's changing the way humans interface with data. They're going to put wires in your head.
Yeah.
Right? That's the idea behind it.
That's the idea.
Christ. It's probably going to be inevitable. Once it happens, I mean, I don't want to be an early adopter, but once it does happen, and it really does remarkably increase your ability to interface with data, because that's the idea, right? So it ramps up the bandwidth in which people can access ideas and information. It's going to change the way we interface.